Euro 2020 is off to a flyer for Italy. Klopp wants German midfielder, AC Milan planned Donnarumma replacement, Kevin De Bruyne out of Belgium opener, and a transfer roundup all coming up in the next few minutes. As I am your host, Matt Froelich, you are the One Footballers, and this is the Daily News. So first off, and it was a fantastic opening night of football in the European Championships. Well, certainly for Italy fans. I mean, once Andrea Bocelli pulled off that performance before the game started, you knew it was going to be a good night for Italy. Despite all their pressure in the first half, they could not break the deadlock, but eventually Turkey crumbled, and Mira Demiral, unfortunately, becomes the first ever player to score an own goal as the first goal of a European tournament. Not exactly the kind of record that he was going to want. Anyway, it was coming. Italy were brilliant. They were so much better, and they showed all the passion that Roberto Mancini was talking about before the game. A fantastic performance which really sets the bar high for them. They're said to be one of the dark horses of this tournament. When you look at the squad and the quality of players that they got, it's richly deserved. On the flip side of this, though, many, including myself, were pitting Turkey to be underdogs, to maybe pull off quite a good performance in this Euros. And of course, they've still got 2 group games left to play. Let's not go mental after just one game, but that showing last night against Italy wasn't exactly fantastic, and they'll be hoping to do better in their second match. As for Italy, well, they've kind of got potentially the most difficult game of the group out of the way first, because the other 2 games against Wales and Switzerland you'd think they would still be favourites for. It now means that Roberto Mancini's side are unbeaten in the last 28 games, a run stretching back to September 2018. So if anyone's on fine form coming into the tournament, it is them. And don't forget, you can find plenty more Euro content on the OneFootball app and the VW OneHub, so check that out. And if you're watching on YouTube, the links will be right below the video. Next up then, and moving on to Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp, who apparently wants his fellow countryman Florian Neuhaus to join him at Anfield. The Borussia Mönchengladbach midfielders had a very good season for his club, contributing 8 goals and 8 assists as they made it to the knockout stages of the Champions League. Now, £34 million for the midfielder, the reported price, is actually a pretty good deal. His minimum fee release clause of €40 million has expired, which technically means that his club could charge whatever they like. So still, to be able to get him for £34 million, that's a pretty good deal. Like I mentioned before, he had a pretty good season going forward, and whilst he necessarily isn't the ultimate creative midfielder, someone that Liverpool will be looking for to break into the box quite late on and maybe go beyond Roberto Firmino when he drops deep, he's still going to contribute very well going forward and in his all-round play. I mean, there's no wonder why he's been so hotly tipped to really make it to the top of the game, both at club and international level. The thing is, at the moment, Liverpool, after getting rid of Gini Wijnaldum, they've got Henderson and Thiago who are 30, and James Milner who's well into his 30s. I'm not saying they're old or past it already, but signing Neuhaus is not only good for now, but also a good tip to the future as well. Something that Liverpool are definitely doing in the transfer market, like with the signings of Ibrahim Konate. Of course, Neuhaus currently finds himself with the German squad at the minute, and with a contract until 2024, Borussia Mönchengladbach is still in a pretty good bargaining position. It just comes down to the fact that if the player wants to leave and a club like Liverpool are interested, the manager like Jurgen Klopp is interested in him, I'm sure he and his team will have quite a bit to say about leaving the club before 2024. Next up then, and to AC Milan and their potential replacement for Gigi Donnarumma. It looks like he's heading to PSG, and that could be in the form of Dean Henderson from Manchester United. The whole season's been filled with a question at Man United: who will be the best option to be #1 goalkeeper? Is it Dean Henderson or David De Gea? Henderson spoke a loads about the fact that he wants to be #1 keeper, but Manchester United look to have gone out and bought a second choice goalkeeper in Tom Heaton. The reason being that, well, the Burnley and former Manchester United youth product actually would be happy to be #2, to be backup. Henderson and De Gea won't. So basically, with him as the second choice, both of those two are going to have to fight it out to be #1. And when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer makes his decision, well, the one who's left out is going to be very disappointed. There are a few rumours that David De Gea will actually still be #1. So if Henderson really wants to have that jersey, he's going to have to find it elsewhere, and AC Milan could provide the exit that he needs. He signed a new deal last summer on £100,000 per week, and whilst that seems like an extortionate amount of money, AC Milan were paying a little bit around that and would have to pay a lot more to keep Donnarumma at the club. They didn't, they haven't, so maybe Henderson could actually fit the bill really well. Like I've mentioned in a few other videos, it's quite odd that an Englishman actually moves abroad. We've only got the likes of Jadon Sancho, Jude Bellingham, there's Kieran Trippier as well. Ashley Young did it last season with Inter Milan. So moving abroad isn't exactly the easiest option for those players, but he will have a fellow Englishman, well, certainly a fellow who grew up in England, in Fikayo Tomori at AC Milan should he decide to move. Next up then, and to some of the football going on today, and tonight we see Belgium in action for the first time in this Euros against Russia. Hotly tipped as one of the pre-tournament favourites, it'll be interesting to see how they cope in their first game without Kevin De Bruyne. He's still feeling the effects of that rough challenge is an understatement from Antonio Rudiger in the Champions League final, so he and fellow midfielder Axel Witsel both miss out on the first game. Despite this though, you'd still think that Belgium would be hot favourites to go ahead and take all 3 points. They faced off against Russia, who had a very, very good World Cup on home soil, reaching the quarter-finals. But you just think the fact that Belgium actually won in St. Petersburg in the 2018 World Cup, and the fact that they're just a very good team, they'll probably have enough to see off Russia. But do not rule out the Russians just yet. If I was to make a prediction, I'd probably go with 2-0 Belgium. I think Romelu Lukaku is just in such ridiculous form that he's going to have a say in the game one way or another, whether he's bursting through defenders and scoring a goal himself or producing some fantastic link-up play like we've seen all season at Inter Milan as they won the Scudetto to help bring others into play. Of course, without Kevin De Bruyne, they're not going to have as much creativity, but they're still going to have a lot because they still have a very, very good squad, Belgium. Make sure you look out for that game tonight. Finally then, we come to a quick roundup of the rest of the day's transfer news that you might have missed, and former Wolves manager Nuno Espirito Santo is widely tipped as the favourite to take over at Goodison Park. Paulo Fonseca has reportedly reached an agreement to sign a 2-year deal at Tottenham. Besiktas are looking at bringing in Sevilla forward Luke de Jong, who's currently with the Netherlands squad at the Euros. And lastly, but not least, Arsenal have offered 2 new contracts to first-team players, which are Kieran Tierney and Eddie Nketiah. That's all from me then today. Make sure you check out everything else we've got going on OneFootball. And until next time, enjoy the Euros, and I'll see you guys later.